of shifting consciousness and changing your life. We're going to begin with a spiritual mind treatment. What would the class like treatment for? No, that's called dealing with the level of effect, which is weather. So no. So even a sense of humor, a sense of senses are all at the level of effect. No, this is a good teaching. Nina.
Love.
Love. Happiness, and one more.
Health.
Health. Love. Happiness. And joy. Is that what it was?
Health.
Health.
Joy, health.
Joy, health. You know, you're right. You're more right than you may be thinking. That it's all the same thing,
Yes,
really. So, 5 people, front and center. The sooner you get up, the sooner you get to pick your step. First step, recognition of the presence of spirit. Second step, identifying your true nature, that is what you are. Third step, affirming love, happiness, and health for everyone in the class. Fourth step, gratitude for love, happiness, and health that is here. And fifth step, releasing this into infinite mind and spiritual law. Which step are you? 3. Wonderful, Jackie. Yay. Nina's 4. They're going fast, folks. Becca's 5. Jane, which step are you?
Oh, I'm such a fool.
Jane, after all that we went over last week, you finished I am with such a fool? Can you rephrase that? I am happy. Come on up. Which happy Jane step are you going to do? 1 or 2? Good. Well, that's yours. And we're looking for someone for step 2. This is the cure to decades of need of therapy. Identifying your true nature as that of spirit.
It's the easiest step of the
Who's coming up to do step 2? No, don't rescue people. These people are amazing students. They are so clear. They're doing spiritual mind treatment every day at home. You know that some of them are still doing treatment for their treatment partners that we set up a few weeks or months ago, whenever that was. So it's not that they don't know step 2. Yay, Darcy! Okay.
Go, Darcy.
So, Jackie, the treatment is for love, happiness, and health, right? It's for the entire class.
Oh,
So the way that we go is I, we, I. And you're going to affirm the presence of spirit everywhere and include love, happiness, and health.
3 of them at once, huh?
Yes, you're going to identify your nature to include love, happiness, and health. You're going to claim love, happiness, and health for all of us. You're going to be grateful for love, happiness, and health. You're going to release all the love, happiness, and health that has been claimed. And I'm going over that to teach you how easy it is to set the law in motion. So, when you're done with your step, please let the person next to you know that you're finished so they're not wondering if you're done. Okay? Everybody, you can take a deep breath if you want.
I am thrilled to say that I am surrounded by an infinity of love, happiness, and health. Everywhere I go, I feel that all of this feeling pours into me from the universe of this most beautiful situation that encompasses these 3 traits. And so every day, and when I get up, the first thing I think of is all the love that's around me, all the happiness that's in the world, and all the health that I enjoy, and also my cat enjoys. So I am just bathed by an infinity of love, happiness, and health.
And because I am
created from the same source that everything is created from, then I too am health, happiness, and prosperity. Health is in every fiber of my being. All of my organs, all of my systems all work in perfect harmony. They all work together. They all work and because they work so well together, I am filled with that happiness of spirit, and I know because that I'm happy that I am filled with prosperity as well, for all things come from the same source, and I truly am from that source that brings all of these things and is all of these things.
I know that because of what Darcy just said, it's true for her, it's true for all of us in this class, it's true for everybody, every human being, of love, happiness, and health. That it's totally inclusive, there are no exceptions, and I am grateful to know that all of you here are abundantly filled and overflowing with happiness, love, and health.
And as the divine, I am grateful for each moment that I am filled with happiness. And as the divine, I know that I have perfect health, and I'm so grateful for this health. And I also have love surrounding me, in me, and as me, and flows from me to out into the world, and I'm so overjoyed and glad and thankful for this energy in me and as me.
And with this knowledge of love, happiness, and health, I release it out to the universe to come back again to all of us, with the words saying together.
And so it is. So it is. Thank you, everybody. Well done. Considering that we're trying to talk about something in words that cannot be described in words, and it doesn't matter if the words don't come out the way that you thought they should have come out, because this is all about energy. It's all about using words to take you somewhere, but where that somewhere is, there are no words. It's fascinating to me. So last week, we had a very different kind of a class. We talked about some things that I looked at as we're finishing this class up on, I think it's the 22nd, is the last night of this particular, The Art of Shifting Consciousness and Changing Your World or Life, whatever it was. So that's the last class. So I was thinking about what areas do I still want to cover in all of this. I mean, we've covered a lot of ways to shift consciousness. But last week I just had a list of things that I thought we'd talk about, and we ended up speaking much more in depth. Am I too loud? I feel a little too loud. Speaking much more in depth than I thought we were going to, and that's great, because I got a lot of feedback that people really enjoyed it, that they learned a lot, and that they had a really good experience with it. So before we jump into the rest of my list, I'm interested in what you got out of last week's class. Jackie.
The lying thing. Every time you come up with an example of a challenge that we're having, you always use going to the gym, being on a diet. And I procrastinated like hell about leaving my house and going to the gym. And I know that my body would like to do that. And I kept saying I would go, and I didn't. I found excuses until like Saturday, 2 days before last Monday. I said, look, you know you're not going to go, so why don't you just make an agreement with yourself to do it differently? I said, okay, I'm not gonna go today, and I'm certainly not gonna go on Sunday. I'm gonna start on Monday and go Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And I went Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and I may be lying about a lot of other things to myself. And I went today, and I was cold in my house, I didn't wanna go out. But I just did it, and the argument is gone, you know?
Yay!
And
Yay! Because the energy that you use spinning with, you should go to the gym. Oh, yeah, I'll go to the gym. Oh, I didn't go to the gym. I feel bad about not going to the gym. But I promise I'll go to the energy that you use, you can now use for something else in your life. And that's where you're at a point of choice. What are you going to use that for? Great. Margaret?
I learned not to use the words "I'm sorry" and not even to think the words "I'm sorry." To use some different words.
Great, and we talked a lot about how you could rephrase what used to come out as "I am sorry." Anything that you put after "I am," you're gonna wanna keep. Great, who held their hand up? Darcy, did you? No? Someone in the back did. Sandy and then Mike.
I actually had an opportunity to clean something up.
Yeah.
It was a friendship that we had been in separate areas. I mean, we were moving in different circles for various different reasons, and we had an opportunity to reconnect after several years, and that was pretty amazing.
And that was with someone here.
Yes.
I've always said if we can't have peace here, under this roof, then what hope is there for the rest of the world? So you filled my heart with that. Thank you.
Yeah, it's interesting because there's certain things that are easier to clean up or might look differently the way you clean them up, but it just totally presented itself just right there. So obvious.
Good for you, good for you. Thank you. Michael?
I cleaned some up with somebody too, and it just felt really good, especially being took it so well, you know. But the biggest thing was the procrastination. I procrastinate a lot of things, and I realized this week it's about things that I feel obligated to do, and I hate feeling. Every time I feel obligated, I go, right, I want to do that, and those shoulds have to. So I decided to quit shoulding on myself.
Good, good. Decided to quit shooting on himself. Right. Good for you. Good for you.
I have one about sorry too. I got a text from my landlord that his wife, who had been ill for a long time, died. And I wanted to say, I'm so sorry, but I didn't say it. And I had to really think about what I wanted to say, that, maybe it was, she really told me to leave this plane at this time, and I'm sending you my condolences. Instead of saying, I'm so sorry, I said, it's so overwhelming, I realize. But it took me a little bit to figure out what to say, not I'm sorry. And I have stopped myself so many times from using the word sorry, even in my own mind. And it's hurt, thank you.
Instead of being sorry, you can hold him in your heart, which is really what he wants. He doesn't want you to be sorry. He wants to feel loved. He wants to feel like there's some support going on as the bottom dropped out of his world. Yeah, good for you. Susan?
It's another sorry story. I was also conscious of it, taking it with me this week, and I realized, and I think not for the first time, in the stores or out in public, people bump into me and I say, I'm sorry. And it happened a few times.
Sorry for having been in your way.
I'm sorry for being, is really what it comes down
Right.
to. Sorry for being here and being. And then I heard myself saying out loud to the person who didn't care, no, I'm not sorry, I'm really not sorry. And I was really saying it for me. And I think that's a microcosm of life, or of my life, that people bump into me, or I could interpret it, people do things that are not okay to me, and I'm the one that wonders if I should be sorry.
Right. So what might be an affirmation for you from that epiphany?
I'm in my right place, is what comes to me, but I don't think that's it. I would have to think about that a moment. I would have to think about that.
I think the word right, but not as in right and wrong. As in I have a
I have a right to be here, thank you. I have a right to be here, or I have a right to be.
I have a right to be. I love that Barbara Streisand, Barry Gibb song. We've got nothing to be guilty of, we've got nothing to be sorry for. Yes,
I have a right to be.
I have a right to be here.
Yeah, I just-
Hello, I have a right to be here.
That's right.
Oh, watch out for her. Barbara and Kristen and Jane.
That was something that a science mind therapist told me years and years ago. He said, whenever you're feeling uncomfortable or nervous about being somewhere or doing something, he said, this is what I want you to say, and that's exactly what it was. I have a right to be here. And even though you might think, well, is this a situation for it? Just say it, anytime.
Right.
And it's
Default on the right to be here side.
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, it's just really works.
Right. Good for
Thank
you.
you for reminding me.
You're
That's
welcome.
great.
Kristen.
So on the sorry front, I noticed how many times I say sorry for just things that there was no need to say sorry for. And also John Tesh on the John Tesh radio show did a whole thing on not apologizing and all the apologizing we do. But I also, I did overnights with a 17-year-old with autism this week. And all of the times that we have people say, oh, I'm sorry for doing that, or I apologize, like getting really creative and helping her find different ways to clean things up. And we talked a lot, because she'll just, oh, I'm sorry, you know, to get me to do whatever she wants. And so we talked a lot about how sorry doesn't fix it, and what else can she do to you know, clean up the whatever happens. And so that was kind of interesting and caused me to have to think about it a lot more. And on the procrastination front, I worked over 100 hours last week and still managed to check off everything on my to-do list with no time. So I'm not sure I managed that, but I was pretty proud of myself.
Good for you. Good for you. Jane and then Bob.
I was working on all things of catastrophizing, and, cause I do it just tremendously.
You used to, yes.
Yeah, I used to do it all the time. And if you catastrophize, in my case, it means that everything that you're involved with is huge.
I. Claim it for yourself, because I don't think anybody else wants it.
Oh, okay. I don't think you guys want it. But, yeah, so just a simple thing of forgetting to take the garbage out on Monday night, you know, is like a catastrophe for me. And so I just have to do everything just perfect, or it's a and it's like I'm the queen of the universe. I mean, I think what it is that I feel so important. It makes me feel so important. I do everything right. And if something like I forget something trivial, it would be trivial. And if I forget it, then that is just, the world crashes.
So, did you forget to take the trash out?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I was just.
Did you practice not going into catastrophe at all? Or were you just aware of how you do it?
Well, I'm just thinking of what it does, what kind of feelings it gives me.
It gives you an adrenaline rush, which you're addicted to.
Yeah.
It goes way back to that fight or flight,
And
drama,
intention.
neurotransmitter stuff, whatever that phrase is, that creates the adrenaline rush, and then you get a hit off of it. And people say, oh, you drug addict. No, we're all drug addicts. We're just quietly making our own drugs inside of us to get high on. And when you stop making everything such a big deal, you'll both feel relieved, but then you also may miss it a little bit.
So what?
You may miss it a little bit.
Yeah, it gets boring, you know.
Well, women who love too much, you know, that whole book was based on women who pick men that will beat them up, rob them, you know, do these awful things to them, but the women pick that so that they can have the rush, and then when they're with someone who treats them well, the phrase is, oh, that person is so boring. So what the task is to get used to boring. Because boring is good. Boring means that you're not bouncing off the walls on your own, stimulus response. So good for you, Jane, good awareness. Bob?
Yeah, for me, it kind of snuck up on me. Because I started to say I was sorry, and then what came to me, I said, I understand. And it was totally different. And then what also came up for me, when my wife was with me, she'd always say she was sorry. I said, you have no reason to be sorry about anything. Because she'd say that a lot. I said, don't be sorry. I mean, because I saw her as bigger than sorry. I mean, okay, so you have a moment. But that's not who you are. So, a lot of things come up for me.
That's good, Bob. Patty?
I think the thing that I enjoyed the most from what I learned was leaning into my fear. Because when you lean into it, it's not so real.
Right.
It strengthens the fear, and somehow or another my synapse started working, and I ended up saying something that didn't embarrass me, which is a unique experience for me, and I'm a fearful spot.
Well, when you're afraid, your fight or flight response has triggered in and all of the blood has left your brain to go into your limbs so that you can run or defend yourself. And you can't think when you're like that. So if you leaned into your fear and took a breath, then blood comes back into your brain and all of a sudden you can make sense in your speech areas.
Yeah,
So good for you.
I had several opportunities to do that.
Good. This is wonderful. Who else? Okay, great. This is good stuff because this is real stuff about shifting the way that you experience life, which can only shift what you get from life. Doing the same thing over and over again is only going to give you the same thing over and over again. So what we're doing is we're going at this from all kinds of different angles to see what can we really do in our lives to create that shift of consciousness and then create a different manifestation. So that's wonderful. To be able to have our lives show up in a different way in simply a week is really great. You guys are wonderful students. So you ready to continue on?
Yes.
Take a deep breath. Stop controlling. Stop controlling. And sometimes we can come into Science of Mind, I know I did it, come into Science of Mind and say, wonderful, these are great tools that now I can control my life. Everything that felt so out of control. My relationships, my money, my living situations, all of that felt so out of control. Now I can use affirmations and spiritual mind treatment to control the experiences of my life. What's wrong with that?
You're limiting.
You're still just as constricted, you're limiting. Because what am I coming from? Am I coming from, I see and experience the presence of spirit in me, around me, through me, in every being of my life. I am so blessed. Is that where I'm coming from? No. I'm coming from my fear. I'm coming from, oh shit, I don't have enough money. I'm gonna die. I had a real fear of being a bag lady. From growing up really poor and not knowing how my life was going to work out, especially in my early stages in Science of Mind, I still had that idea. I was living in Oregon and holding on by a wing and a prayer and giving plasma twice a week and on food stamps and welfare and had a 3-year-old, and I never knew from one moment to the other whether or not I was going to be okay. So that fear then was transferred into, I will now harness the power of the universe and cram it into my little mental equivalent that I need $5 more. So when I am controlling and using Science of Mind to do that, I can create create the $5 more. I really can. But what a waste. Because it's still constricting everything in my experience through my fear. So my need to control, when it's transferred into using science of mind and metaphysics, restricts and constricts my ability to manifest. And then since I'm still fear-based and controlling, what happens when I lay that onto someone else?
Same thing.
You get it back.
Pardon me?
You get it back from
Well,
them?
you certainly do get it back since everything is a reflection. But how has controlling other people worked for you?
They don't appreciate it.
They don't appreciate it. And then you end up saying you're sorry. And staying in the same fear that you were. Controlling other people is based on an idea that they're not okay. And where does that projected idea that someone else is not okay come from? It comes from inside of yourself. That you don't have a right to be here, that you're not okay, that at any minute someone can plow into you with their grocery cart or their vehicle or their economy or whatever. That at any moment something can happen because you're not okay. And so that fuels this idea of wanting to control people, places, and experiences around us. And have you ever been with someone who's really controlling?
Oh, yeah, you-
How does that feel?
like-
Well, I'm the one, I wanna own my own stuff, I am a controller, and now getting rid of it.
How are you getting rid of it?
I don't know. First off, I'm in CODA, which is step 1, take care of yourself. Step 2, stop controlling, so I'm working on whatever it is I'm controlling.
Okay, working on how to not control.
Yes.
If we control based on our fear, like if I want someone to be a certain way, to do what I want them to do, to live up to my expectations, I'm being motivated and fueled by fear. That if they don't do what I want them to do, if they don't act the way I want them to act, look the way I want them to look, have the experience that I want them to experience, then that somehow means something about me. What might that mean in this projected scenario about me?
You're not okay.
That I'm not okay. How many parents want their kids to get a haircut, to be clean, to not pierce or tattoo, to make good grades in school, to just go to school? You know, to not drink and do drugs and to look the part of you know, a young American successful thing, so that the parent looks good. Not what the kid wants. The kid may be brilliant and creative and wonderful.
And it comes across as belittling.
Of course it does, because you're putting them down because you see them as broken or not okay, the way that they are. So they need you to come in and fix them, rescue them, save them. It gets very messy very quickly. To be able to have enough of a sense of yourself that you can let the circumstances around you be is very healthy. But that requires something called boundaries. And a boundary, for those of you who don't know what it is where you stop and somebody else starts. Now, I know this isn't metaphysically correct, because metaphysically we are all one. But in the outside world, the world of control, when we don't understand that that's them, not us, we get confused and we want to jump over into their world and fix them the way we want them to be. We do it all the time with kids. Oh, don't do that, don't say that, don't be like that. Be nice, be happy. We do it all the time with kids. Who you are and how you are right now is not okay. I'm not comfortable with how you are because it makes me feel inadequate inside of myself in terms of the idealized image that I'm trying to live up to, which I never will, so you're going to have to act out forever just so that we can keep this game going. And it comes from a sense that they're not okay, which comes from a sense that we're not okay, which is a boundary thing. Now, if we're okay, it doesn't matter what the other person does. It doesn't matter if someone that is driving down the street, where were we? We were in Dickey's. Anybody know Dickey's, half-price dented food now on Merriman? We were at Dickey's because we go there and we get big cans of stuff and frozen cookies and things like that for the center. And somebody was fighting with their spouse and their kid. And while it was uncomfortable, I knew that it didn't have anything to do with me. Now, if that was happening in my living room with my family members, that might have been a different experience for me. It's easier for me to have that boundary with someone that I don't know. It's easier for me to see someone on television upset, you know, I like to watch them on mute. I do. I love to watch them on mute and to see that and know that that has nothing to do with me. But if it's someone that I'm married to, if it's my sister, if it's someone here at the center, then that's more difficult for me to have that boundary that this is your thing, it's not my thing. And if it's your thing, I can breathe, and I can have blood in my brain, and I don't have to react to try to change you. I can actually just love you just the way that you are. Now think about how different an experience that is for you. Think about a time when you were really set on trying to control someone and they did not want to be controlled. You know, and we're not allowed to get the little zapper collars for people. So think about how that felt, how frustrating that was, how emotionally draining it was, how you just didn't feel good about anything because of that person. And you can tell people about that person and that that's why you were unemployed, didn't have a house, sick, broke, whatever, was their fault. That's a boundary issue, because the truth is that whatever they're doing doesn't have anything to do with you. Whatever you're doing has everything to do with you. And then you flip it metaphysically, and you know that whatever's going on inside of you is simply being projected onto them and created as a way for you to see it more clearly. So if you're going to try to control them for not being good enough or okay, then you may want to look at the ways that you try to control yourself for not being good enough or okay. Because once you just relax into who you are, it's easy to let everybody else be who they are and just to love them. Bob, and then Darcy, and then Jane, and then Sandy, and then Kristen.
Got a lot of questions. Now, what came to me was, I was a big-time fixer. I probably still do it occasionally. I catch myself a lot. And somebody gave me a distinction. It was a friend, and we're mirrors of each other. And she was upset about something, and I come in and try to fix it. And she got angry with me. She got more angry. And then I got the analogy in my mind. It's like a golf swing. Some people just have to follow through. And you got to give them that space to just let them go through it and just listen to it. And just don't have to say anything a lot of times. They come back to you and say thank you, and I haven't said a word.
Right, because there was no fixing, and because there was no fixing, there was no judgment of being wrong or incapable or broken.
Exactly.
Right, and when someone else is wrong or incapable or broken, you're putting them down so that you can feel bigger and better than, so that you can help. It's a very subtle game. And society supports helpers, especially this time of year. If you want to help, you'll get a lot of kudos, but if you're helping because you just put someone down, then don't be too surprised if they end up turning on you. Because what you did is you said you're not capable of living your own life. I have a great phrase that I use, which is you're in your perfect and right place. I have great faith that you will be able to work it out. I have great faith that you'll figure this out. You're in your perfect and right place. John says, you're on your perfect path. no, he doesn't say perfect, he doesn't like that word perfect. He says something like that about being right where you need to be on your path. You know, and that kind of objectifies it a little bit, but validates the person and sends some love their way, you know, lets you be compassionate and supportive without saying, you stupid idiot, you know, you can't do anything right, let me do it for you, here, just get out of the way and I'll jump in there and fix it. Which is really what the communication is. So good awareness, Bob. I'm just gonna go around, Darcy.
I was just curious, if you know somebody who's a chronic complainer and all they want to do is have drama in their life, is it setting boundaries not to have them around you, or is it being controlling not to have them around you?
Well, you're not trying to get them to change, you just don't want them around you.
Yeah, because I'm finding as I'm letting go of a lot of those things that I just don't want them in my life anymore. I find I have a really difficult time, and I had an old friend that wanted to come up and visit me over the holidays, and I was a little concerned about how I was going to deal with her personality while she was here. So I basically just turned it over to the universe and asked for guidance, and she called me and said she had to back out. So I knew that it wasn't meant to happen, but I wondered, you know, is that being controlling, or is it setting boundaries that you don't want that kind of energy in your life anymore?
You have a right to be around the people that you want to be around. And if they push your button, they own you. So this is not a single cut and dry thing. And it takes a while to learn how to be around people that are negative. So in terms of coming up with what you're willing to say or do, that's your growth process. You may have heard all of this once and it starts again and you go, no, wait a minute, you already told me all that, I got it.
Yeah.
And not let it repeat. Or you may get to the point where you say, you know, I'm not gonna have you come up because you're just more negativity than I'm willing to have in my life. And I think we'd grow in separate directions, you know, something like that. But any of that is better than just feeling stuck and having to keep your mouth shut because you feel that that's what you should do to be nice and to be good and to be socially appropriate.
Well, I bring up a lot of spiritual ideas with this individual, but it just seems like when I do, I get talked right over. It's almost like she doesn't want to hear anything about it. She just wants to keep going in her cycle.
Okay, so you can either let her, love her the way she is, or not have her in your life. Those are really the only two choices.
Yeah, I do love her as an individual. She's a good, kind-hearted person, but I can't deal with that energy anymore.
You don't have to. You don't have to. Whether even if you were married to that person, I would say you don't have to do that. And we are vibratory beings. As we shift our vibration, people that we used to be a really good fit with, we're not a good fit at all with. And to try to pretend that you're the person that you used to be and jump in and complain and gossip and do all of that is lying.
Yeah, it wouldn't feel
That's
good.
lying.
I wouldn't feel good to do
So however you choose to deal with that is your growth process, and whatever you choose to do is fine. Yeah. So Elizabeth, were you on my original list?
I was not on the original
Okay,
list.
hold on, who was next? Jane was on the list, and then Sandy, and then Kristen, and then Elizabeth.
I just thought I'd throw them in there. Here.
Jane.
I got you, Jane.
No, I'll be real helpful and make you go ahead. No, I was just thinking, as when you're a little kid, it's very. When I was a little kid, it was very hard to keep my boundaries. Now, my mother was quite a difficult woman. I was a good tennis player at one time, and so she was thrilled whenever I won a match or this or that. So I went and I did everything I could to win every match I could. And as a consequence, I completely destroyed my shoulder. I mean, there was no boundary between, I mean, if I had a boundary, I would have thought, you know, I really don't care whether I'm gonna lose at this sport, you know, but I just, there wasn't there, it was just, you know, get the approval.
How many people have done things in their life for approval? Yeah, and how many people have hurt themselves in the process? Yeah, yeah. So congratulations, Jane, for noticing that and for getting your shoulder fixed.
Well, yeah, it's still
Yeah.
hurting, but it's okay.
Good, good, good. Sandy?
Two things. One's an aha moment. We both were control freaks back in the beginning of 16 years ago, and we're just not the same people. That's kind of amazing. We are not the same people that we used to be at all.
Good.
Yes.
Congratulations.
It's amazing because a lot of people will meet at the center, but we came here together, so it's always been our walk together, even from the beginning. And how that has evolved is absolutely mind-blowing. And the second thing is having to do with control as well. That is not for me to do. I use that a lot.
That is not for me to do.
That is not for me to do. I wonder where I got that from, but anyway.
Other phraseology is, that's none of my business. That's none of my
Because
business.
it's like I would be in the band and I'm like, what are you wearing on Sunday morning? I'm like, it's not for me to do.
Good.
It's exhausting.
It is. It's
It is
exhausting.
for you to do.
Because it all comes from a sense of separation and duality, and that things can be bad and wrong and less than, and that we all of a sudden are in charge and have to fix it. And it'll hurt our shoulder, it'll exhaust us, all of that. Kristen?
So in my job, it's part of my job to support people in changing, essentially, and not always in ways that they want to change, but that the people around them want to change. So the way I handle it is I think they're awesome people right here, right now, and then, I work with them in whatever their goals are, but I don't have any attachment to whether they follow
There
through.
you go. There you go. You don't have any attachment. It doesn't mean anything about you. Your value is not contingent upon somebody or something else.
So is that a
Exactly.
good way to handle that?
Absolutely, absolutely. Elizabeth?
So many thoughts, so many going on. I guess the thing I was gonna add is a subtle form, in my process of following the breadcrumb trail to letting go, being happy, so forth. I discovered my own vibrational, energetic control and self-torture that I was doing by harboring resentments that were long old, I didn't say something at the time, I didn't speak up at the time, so, but what's happened is like this understanding of how to let go of it and not forgive like I forgive you, but really, truly be able to be in this moment with the past gone, in my own prison that I was creating by wanting to control energetically people that I thought owed me something. And it might have been money, it might have been an apology, it might have been acknowledgement for, good God, don't you see how hurt I was? And somehow that became very evident to me that it's a form of this. I don't want to be in prison anymore. I don't want to try to control somebody. I don't want to want something. It was like, forgive us our debts as we forgive others, got real clear all of a sudden. There weren't words. It was like, oh, yeah. And I literally held each person up in front of me. It was one of those shaman night things. And it was like, you don't owe me anything anymore. You don't owe me money. You don't owe me an apology. I free you. You are free. Honest to God, you don't owe me anything. And what, of course, it did was, I'm free, I'm free. Somehow that was related, I think.
It's very related because everything is a reflection of you. And so when we're acting out that reflection as our own suppressed, unhealed self, and then we project that onto someone else and we react to what we see them as wrong, bad, in need of fixing, then that creates trauma and pain in our lives, but we're creating it. When we can love and accept ourselves without a lot of shoulds and whippings and lists and things like that on ourselves and just be okay. Remember, the first question of the happiness test was, or the first idea was to get to know yourself and to like yourself. So if you get to know yourself, I don't want to go there and do that. Well, okay. I'm going to like you even if you don't do that. You know, people go through diet fads in the center, and currently it's very hip to be gluten-free, and it's always been, you know, white sugar is not a good thing, and why do you feed people caffeine? It's like, well, caffeine and sugar and white flour, they're like the only drugs I have left, you know? And I'm good with that. I like that about myself. So I'm not going to make myself wrong about that. And someone else who's saying, she doesn't know what she's talking about. Gluten-free has saved me. Great, be gluten-free and be happy about it. So when we can love and accept ourselves just the way that we are, all of a sudden we free everybody else up. And we have all this freedom.
Well, and I also was creating with them when all that energy went away from that to intend and actually, I'm just focused on what I want.
Right, and you're getting what you want.
Instead of that, you know, with the lead weights.
Right, and your body will take that energy and it will use it to heal and regenerate. Your finances will take that and create money. Your creative energies will send that out in front of you and open up doorways and gather things together for you to move forward in life. It's a miracle that some of us are still alive. We're using so much energy being critical and judging and complaining and condemning people, events, governments, whatever. People can find fault in anything, and when you do, it sucks the energy out of you. So that when you awaken in the morning, you're going, oh, I don't know if I can make it through the day. Well, that should tell you that you have a lot of control going on, and that the person that we are using that control against is really us. So, you know, you didn't live up to your mother's expectations, or worse, like Jane, you did. You know, and you paid the price for that. Whatever it is, you are or are not the way you think you should be. All of that energy goes into that dynamic, and because we're one, we have to project it and create it out in our world, and then instead of saying, oh, this is my disowned self. This is a wonderful opportunity for me to heal, and I'll practice it by being completely okay with who that person is and how they're living their life, so that I can be okay with who I am and how I'm living my life. And when we start doing that, then we free up all of this energy to be able to jump up in the morning and go, God, I feel so good. Today's a happy day. Today's the best day ever. I'm just so excited about my life. And when we have that energy, our life starts to pop into place in amazing ways, in amazing speed. Elizabeth.
I have a question. Okay, so my life has brought me to this situation where I am suddenly in a temp job where I'm trapped in a room with 4 people.
You're not trapped, you're
Well,
choice.
I can leave. Okay, but it's interesting to me. It's sort of an opportunity for me to be in a place with people talking smack and try to be okay with it. Because usually I just get away from it. I just don't have that in my life. But it's kind of like, okay, how can I be in terms of boundaries? I'm doing pretty good with it. But there is a person, for example, who's rather loud, who talks about a lot of stuff, very distracting, very affecting when I'm trying to do something. So the boundary issue where I get messed up is like, okay, I get my boundaries, but then there's that fuzzy line where you kind of want to say something, you know, like where I want to say something, and I want to honor their boundary, their right to be who they are and say what they want to say, and however, I am.
But the reason that you want to say something is to shut them up? To show them the error of their ways?
No, I'm just having trouble focusing on what I'm doing when somebody's.
Well, can you say that?
I have.
Okay.
subtly said that, and
Well, no, I mean, really just say it, say those words. I'm having trouble focusing on what I'm doing with all of this conversation going on. Then you're not making them wrong.
Okay.
But if they, this is the deal, people, everybody take a deep breath and listen to me. If they make you angry or afraid, they own you. They own you. And then you're just a puppet on a string. So at some point, you have to diffuse that which makes you afraid, which is that they can somehow do something that has something to do with you, and diffuse that which makes you angry, which is that they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, which has something to do with you. Cut the strings, find your own sense of peace and your own self, and then it doesn't matter what they do. They can be jumping up and down, playing acid rock and smoking crack, and it won't matter what they're doing around you. Now that doesn't mean that you'll stay, you might very peacefully choose to leave. That's your choice, but they won't own you. People own you, circumstances own you, politics own you, economies own you, cars own you, because you don't know who you are. Your slavery is a lack of awareness of who you are, and that's all that controlling is. When you are trying to control anything outside of yourself, Deepak calls it outer referenced. I need to control my bank account so that I feel safe. I need to control my body. I need to control the people in my life. I need to control my pets. I need to control my grass. I mean, how many people do you know are obsessed with the way their grass looks? It's grass. The Japanese think we're stupid, that we plant stuff that you have to cut. You can't eat it, it's not beautiful. You know, you crazy Americans, and then you're out there with poisons and fertilizers and machines and all of that, so that you can look back and say, I'm okay because my grass looks a certain way. But that's the way we all live our lives. I'm okay because my car looks a certain way. I'm okay because my hair looks a certain way. You know, we have ways of measuring our okayness. Yes, Barbara?
This is really interesting. So you mentioned before that in addition to trying to control people, we can try to control ourselves. So are those examples of some ways we try to control ourselves so that we're okay, like, okay, to-do list, and I'm going to dress a certain way, and I'm going to eat this specific diet, and be perfect on the diet?
If it's something that you don't want to do, then yes, you're controlling yourself. If you want to do it, great, go for it. I like to have my hair a certain color.
Right.
That's the me I expect to see in the mirror. I am not ready to be nearly as gray as my hair thinks I should be ready. And I process myself, and I go in here to get my hair colored because I think that I should look a certain way so that people believe what I say, because there's an image that I like to uphold. Or am I doing that because that's the way I want to look? And I'm very clear that's the way I want to look. I want to have makeup on, and I want to have my nails grown out to where I can put some polish on them again, and I want to wear certain clothes. I love my silks. I get dressed up on Sunday morning and I look in the mirror and I go, that's the person that I want to look like. And so that's a good thing. And when the day comes when I don't want to do that, I guarantee you I will not show up looking that way. I will probably cut all my hair off and let it grow out as some kind of whitish gray thing that it seems to be percolating in there. And wear shorts and flip-flops and say, hey, this is me. I've done that on Wednesday nights, actually. I showed up in shorts and flip-flops, and I was completely okay. I've had people look at me and go, are you Barbara? Yeah, you've never seen me without makeup. You've just never been here on Not a Sunday, have you? So, if you want to do that, if you want to eat a certain way, like I make a NutriBullet smoothie every morning. I love the way it tastes. I love the way it feels in my body. I'm not doing it because I should. I'm doing it because I want to, because I like it. But if I've got something that I don't want to do, and I've done that. I was vegan for 2 or 3 years with John, and I didn't like it. Wow. And it finally occurred to me that the only reason I was doing that was because I had some idealized image about what a good wife is. Doesn't bring a steak into the house when your spouse is vegan, you know? And at that moment, I stopped being a vegan. It's like, I don't want to do this. I'm not going to do it anymore. So I was good with that. But there are certain things that we like to do and certain things that we don't. I know people who love to run. You love to run. I don't love to run, I'm not going to do it. So I'm not going to do it. And I'm okay with that. Get to know yourself and like yourself and be okay with yourself, and then you'll leave the rest of the world alone. And if you're dabbling out in the rest of the world, which is none of your business, turn within. I was listening to some CDs from August, and when she was here, she had a bunch of CDs, and one of the things that she says is that whenever you tell someone else that they should, turn it around and say, I should. And just feel that out, see what's there. Otherwise, it wouldn't be coming out on somebody else. And maybe it's not I should, maybe it's I shouldn't have, or something like that. Doesn't have to be word for word that, but bring the energy back to yourself and see what's fueling that. Bart.
I'm on this year 4 of a journey of self-love and acceptance. And the mother of my children likes to control. And so I'm no longer there. I'm running into a dilemma, however, of seeing her do that to them and not knowing how to really address the situation. I mean, my 15-year-old son starts going off, and I'm like, hold on, first, you must be respectful. She is your mother. She does love you. I mean, let's talk about, this calmly. But I don't know how to go to her and say,
Why would you want to?
because it's difficult for me to see them go through something that I went through.
So that's your disowned self. But they picked her. They picked her. They are in their perfect and right path. And for me, a good phrase is, I have faith that you will figure this out. I have faith in you. You're 15 years old. You're in this circumstance, but I know that you have everything that you need and that you'll work this out. That you're on your perfect and right path. And then you believe that. And don't try to change her. 15 years. It's set.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's not going to change. So if you're trying to save them from something that you went through, every parent's dream, not to have my children do the same stupid things that I did and hurt the way I hurt, and it never works because they are on their perfect and right path. So all you do is love them. And that's the only phrase is, I love you. I know you're going to figure this out. I'm here to support you. Quickly.
And there's a Hawaiian word, and it's pole, and it means I honor the part of you that can move through this, that is strong enough to move through this.
Great.
And I use that one a lot.
Great. And then what you're telling yourself is that I honor the part of me that can move through this. That I can move through this. That I'm on my perfect path. That all is well. All is well. All is well. Instead of all is wrong. All is wrong. That's exhausting. And it'll kill you. All is well. All is well. All is well. Okay? Let's take a break. So I love this class. It's kind of like a therapy thing. But also, if you're wanting to change your consciousness, if you're wanting to shift, then you have to look at, I think, that it's helpful to look at concrete ways that we don't shift, and then think about how we can shift. So if we're trying to shift our consciousness, and we're very entrenched in this idea of I am right, then we're not going to have the flexibility to be able to shift the way we see ourselves and see our world. And shifting the way we see ourselves and see our world is what shifts the manifestation process. When we have an idea that says, I am right, it has to be paired with the idea that you are wrong. Otherwise, I am right doesn't work.
Yeah, you're about that.
For me to be right, you have to be wrong. And the you can be very vague. The you can be, I am right and you rioters are wrong. I am right and you warmongers are wrong. I am right and you financial system are wrong. I am right and you educational system are wrong. You know, it doesn't have to be your next door neighbor that I am right and you are wrong. For us to have this sense that there is something inherently wrong, we can project that onto any person, any group, any idea. You know, I am right and you allopathic medicine are wrong. We can push it out there to anything that we want. I am right and you ET aliens are wrong. You know, the gray ones, watch out because they'll come into your bedroom and they've got that big head. You know.
Blue ones are really
So anytime we go into the I am right, we're bringing with us a you are wrong. And if we're coming into an idea that says you are wrong, whoever that you, whatever that you may be, who are we really saying is wrong? Us. So if we're looking at, and I don't know if you've ever been around people who just have to be right all the time.
Yes.
The thing that for me is taxing about that is that the energy is often that I personally am wrong if someone else needs to be right. You know, and it can be anywhere from how the coffee cups are arranged to my entire belief system about science of mind and self-empowerment and changing the world through you know, spreading the light and the love. It can be anything in between, but when I'm around someone who needs to be right all the time, their insecurity that is feeding that, the basic belief that says they're wrong to begin with, for me, wears on me. And sometimes I can get a little defensive. It's like, I don't do well with being told that I am wrong, especially on things that I know I'm right about. So that can trigger me off into my stuff. But when we look at how can we really shift our consciousness and change our lives, change our world, to go from, what the point of this class was, to go from an intellectual understanding of these tenets to actually using them and making our life work in a different way, or allowing our life to work in a different way by intentionally doing things differently, then when we decide we're going to do that, we've got to be willing to let some things go. And letting go of the need to be right is very powerful. And that goes along with letting go of the need to control, you know, because if we're not right, then the whole world could just go to pot. Anarchy could just happen. You know, if you look at the mindset, if we have all of this pressure to be right, to be perfect, it's like Jane and her tennis. She hit that tennis ball so many times out of stress that she had to have her shoulder replaced. So if we have all of that pressure to be right, to hold everything together, you know, and I don't want to get too far into therapy, but it's not uncommon that children who grow up in highly dysfunctional families have an over need to be in control and to watch everything so that they know when the next danger is coming in, and they've got to hold themselves to that level of stress and pressure, all based in fear. But when we can just let everything be okay and run the risk that danger will happen and things will fall apart and the earth will open up. Sometimes people think if they don't hold themselves on a tight leash, that they're gonna go and pick up a chainsaw and just start hacking everybody up into pieces. We make up all of these stories, these catastrophizing stories, to try to hold ourselves tight, and it's all based in fear. So in this idea of needing to be right, you may just want to practice letting something happen that you know is not right. Let the faucet drip. Let that person wear 2 socks that don't match without needing to correct them, to be right. And what that comes from is holding yourself on such a tight leash that you can't do that. I love the way kids will put on different clothes. You know, clothes that have no business being on the same body at the same time. They will put on and think that they're great, and what's wrong with that? What is that free spirit inside of us that we can't let risk public criticism? You know, what is that we haven't let out, and if we don't make them wrong and correct them and control them by making them change, and a kid, a partner, a business, whatever, then what does that say is gonna happen inside of us? And when we can just start getting to that place where we can take a deep breath and just let it be okay. It really is okay. Whatever is going on really is okay. Then we can take some of our energy back from the outside, outer reference, and bring it back to the inside and see what's going on inside of us, that we would be so motivated to explain why there needs to be a stop sign there to the county commissioners or whatever it is that we've picked up as a banner that is wrong, so that we can be right. You know, and religions have been based on this for millennia, about making people wrong so that they can be right. And what we've learned is that they're not really so right now, are they? There's just a need to make people wrong, and when you're making people wrong, before you know it, you're gonna be wrong yourself. So what would it be like if we didn't have to be right? And my guess is everybody in the room does this at some level, where we know it's what's right, you're not doing it the right way. I told you how to do it the right way, and you didn't do it. So now I have to tell you again, I'm gonna make you do it the right way because I'm totally justified, because I know what the right way is. That's crazy. That's creating a war inside of ourselves. Did you have your hand up, Susan?
I did. I'm just making a connection, and it's a continuation of what I was speaking about last week, the fear of confrontation and not being clear. Because if I'm clear, it's out there and you really know what I think or what I feel. If I'm not clear, there's a defense there that you don't really know that stuff. And if you don't know that stuff, you may like me, rather than knowing who I am or what I'm thinking and not knowing. So, not being right, for me, is a continuation in that another person or other people can think poorly of me. So if somebody thinks poorly of me, that makes me not right.
Right. So to look at someone else as not right or wrong is always gonna come back to you, and you're gonna be wrong.
But
For
it's
that
not-
matter, your sense of wrongness is gonna fuel the whole process.
But it's not even about them being right or wrong, it's always my fear that I'm not right.
Of course,
So
otherwise you wouldn't have projected it.
Tiptoe and live like a shadowy kind of life sometimes.
Right. If you didn't already have a sense that there was something wrong with you,
Right.
you would never project it onto someone else and have something be wrong with you. You just wouldn't care. You wanna wear different colored shoelaces? Fine, has boundary, has nothing to do with me. I'm gonna love you and enjoy you however you show up. I'll be right there. So you have something wrong inside of you, or a perceived something wrong. and then you project it onto someone else, because we've got to look at it. We can't just suppress things. There's only one. We live in a reflective universe. There's only us. So we project it onto someone else so that we can react to it inside of them, but we're so busy defending ourselves that the only way we're safe is to be right and make them wrong. And if you stop doing that, don't be surprised if some things come up inside of you where you realize that you feel like there's something wrong. What a wonderful
With yourself.
Yeah, with yourself, because that's where it came from. It's coming up to heal. So instead of suppressing it, it comes up and you can look at it and go, well, I've carried this around for however long. I have lived my life a shadow of myself, worried that someone was going to see my deep, dark secret. And what is it? That I might say something that's not correct, or that I may, make myself vulnerable in some way. I can live with that. And all of a sudden you're releasing energy. You're getting to know yourself. Oh, that's not what I want. I have an opinion. I may want to share that with people where I never have before. Whatever starts to happen, I want to be an artist. I want to quit my job. I want to, whatever, change my sexual preference, I want to be different. And then you can let that risk have enough value that you are not driven by trying to protect yourself, because you know that there's that within you that is okay. I think that the original affirmation always goes back to, I am safe. I am safe. I am safe being me. I have a right to be here, and I am safe being me. And I'm going to stop kowtowing and changing and controlling myself and manipulating everybody else around me to try to pretend that I'm somebody that I'm not. I'm done with that. I'm over with that, because I'm tired of living the life of someone that I'm not. It's not my life. I don't like that food in my refrigerator. I don't like the colors on this wall. I don't like the people I'm hanging out with. You may be surprised what comes up when you stop trying to change yourself to be something that you're not. And it does go to, I won't be me because I think that I'm bad and wrong. So I'll be who I think you want me to be. I'll change for you. And then I'll manipulate and control you so that you approve of me, except I'll feel very shallow and empty because I'm over here not getting any of that love. It's going to this fictitious person that I've created. And then typically the person then blames the one that they've manipulated and controlled. And we call it, marriage. So good stuff. Let it be okay. Take a deep breath. Whoever it is, your kid, your parents, your boss, your employees, your friends, your dog, your neighbors, who or whatever it is, just let it be okay. Practice that. And then see how you feel, because you created a boundary. So if you're not just reacting to them all the time, where does that leave you? And I'm not saying it will all be a bed of roses. It's not necessarily going to be this epiphany of joy. You may have to look at yourself in the mirror and go, what have I been running away from? When I was a kid, I got in trouble for being loud. And then I realized I liked being loud. And so I'm willing to pay the price for being loud. I don't care. Somebody doesn't like me because I'm loud? Too bad. Go find somebody quiet. Not me. It ain't me, babe. And then the freedom comes. But there is a little bit of progression of process work in there. So don't be too surprised if you have some feelings come up, because I really want everyone in the room to practice this coming week, taking a deep breath and letting it be okay. Whatever it is, let it be okay. Let it be okay that the bagel burnt. Just let it be okay. And see what comes up in you, because what comes up in you is what you were trying to hold down. And it's better off coming up. You're better off with it coming up. See if you can't get to know yourself a little bit better. Does that make sense? Great. How about put your ego aside? And I'm not against the ego. I think the ego has great value in our lives. I think our personality has great value. The purpose of the ego is to keep us safe, but sometimes it can get a little bit out of control in that we translate on a powerful, creative, spiritual being, and I can have my life any way that I want it, to I want that. I want it, and I want it, and I want it. I know nobody else wants it. But at what point is it appropriate just to realize, maybe this isn't about me. Maybe I don't have a say in this situation. Well, how does that work, Barbara? I'm creating it. Maybe I'm creating it so that I will have an opportunity to just pull back a little bit. You know, if I'm creating a situation where I have to stomp my foot out of my own insecurities, and if I need everybody to be exactly the way I need them to be to feel okay about myself, then I'm going to create that. But maybe the higher creation is that I can see myself even when something doesn't seem to be going well. Sometimes I want things at the center and people tell me no. It's fascinating to me. And I realize it doesn't have anything to do with me. It's not going to happen the way that I would have it happen, but I'm not the one doing it. I'm not willing to do it. And so maybe I'll just step back and let them do it, whatever way they want, as long as it doesn't hurt anybody. But I know that ministers in this movement that would never dream of being okay without every little thing they want being put into practice. Whether it's more work, whether it's not necessary, whether it's really just not a good idea, period, that their egos would be so big that there is no room for, this is what I think that would be a good idea. Well, this is what I think would be a good idea. Okay, go ahead and do it. I still think this would be a good idea. I don't have to have it to have my value as a person. Now, what happens when we let go of this? Because it's all about shifting consciousness. When we go from the consciousness of, you better do what I say. If I say jump, you better say how high, and you better be up in midair when you say it. You know, that's a hard way to live. To, okay, you know, if something terrible happens, we'll figure it out later. But, okay. How does that shift your energy, your focus, your creative abilities, your manifestation? How busy are you with, you better do what I say, and if I say jump, you better say how high? I mean, how much energy does that take? How in the world are you regenerating your liver or your pancreas or your skin? You know, how are you busy creating money in your life or experiencing joy or seeing God in somebody else and really having that connection? You're too busy going, and that's all ego. That's based in safety because the ego at that moment thinks that the only way to keep you safe is to be in total control of everybody around you because danger comes from people around you. Not realizing that the higher truth is that we're safe. It's okay. Whatever happens, we can work it out. If there's a problem, we can work it out. It doesn't matter what it is. Nothing is insurmountable. Nobody's going to die, and if they do, you know, we'll celebrate their life. It'll be okay. How does that feel to you? Yeah. Let yourself off the hook and let everybody else off the hook. It's freeing. Because everybody gets to do whatever it is they want to do, including you. I've often thought that we pay a lot of attention to things around us just so we can avoid ourselves. And we'll spin really fast and wonder why we're so tired. But to do all of this, and it is a little bit like therapy, you've got to be willing to look at yourself and to take a really good look at yourself. Where am I controlling? You know, most people don't like to ask themselves that question. They don't like to answer it. They certainly don't like to do anything about it. Where am I manipulative? How many times have I gone into a conversation knowing exactly where I want it to go? That the only reason I'm having this conversation is to try to get that person to do this thing. Am I alone? So where am I manipulative? And how can I stop that?
That's a good one. How can I stop?
Yeah, how can I stop
How
that?
can I stop?
How can I stop that? Don't have the conversation. If you know that the conversation is going to lead to, I want you to do this for me, I want you to change, I want you to be a certain way, don't go down that road. Especially not in the beginning, because you don't have the tools yet to re-shift the conversation. You're gonna end up right where you were last time. Don't go down the road. You know, I really think that you'd be better off if, don't go down that road. Well, I'm only trying to help. No, you're not. You're involved in a very complex psychological psychodrama that is all about your own fear and insecurity that's projected onto everybody else around you. You're making everybody else crazy and you're killing yourself. Well, I was only trying to help. It's never that simple. It's never like that. Let yourself off the hook, let everybody else off the hook, and see what comes up. Who had their hand up? Kristen.
So you're talking about controlling other people. Well, my question is, what's the difference between going into a conversation knowing exactly how you want it to come out because you're controlling and manipulating versus you're just really, like you talk about how you're really clear sometimes about what you want in a certain situation. So where's
Yeah, but I don't want anything that has to do with someone else.
Okay.
That's the boundary. I can be very clear about what I want, but it has nothing to do with that other person doing or changing anything. It's not, I want you to. As soon as I go to you, I'm screwed. I choose to have this experience in my life. What you do is your business. This is what I'm going to do. That's the difference. As soon as it goes to you, you're avoiding yourself. Danielle.
If you take this into a sense of parenting, you don't control your children, you teach them. But, I mean, like the clothes thing, take it more severe, like, you don't need to climb that tree, you're gonna fall and break your neck. But still letting them have their power and keep your boundaries separate from them. Where do you draw that line in raising a child?
Safety.
Safety.
Get out of the tree.
Where they can see that you're coming from a place of yourself.
Yeah, I'm choosing not to go to the hospital right now.
Okay.
So come on, let's go. And you have an obligation as a parent to keep your child safe. So if there's something that they are doing, like if a child is wandering out into the middle of the freeway, whether it's your child or not, you grab the child.
Right.
And that's why they have therapy later on, so that when they talk about that scenario, they'll completely leave out the freeway and just say, I was wandering around having a wonderful time. This terrible person grabbed me, took away all my freedom and made me wrong.
So if it's not something where safety is an issue, it's more of like wanting to wear purple pants with a brown shirt and 2 different shoes.
Who cares? Why do you care?
I don't know.
Why do you care? What difference does it make?
I guess more like a nurturing kind of level. And clothes are a horrible example, but just living life as I'm gonna say this is horrible, as they should.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not the words that need for it.
No, let them go. Let them do what they want to do. If kids laugh at them and they get their feelings hurt, they'll come home and they'll shift.
Yeah.
Margaret was really helpful to me when Matthew was going through his I'm a stinky boy stage. You know, every boy goes through it. It's like, take a shower. You didn't even get hardly wet. Go back in there and put some soap in that head. You know, what am I going to do with this kid? And she said, don't worry about it. One day a girl's going to look at him and say, you stink. And that was the end of it. And that's exactly what happened. And then the question is, how do I get him out of this shower before all the hot water? And the truth is you don't. If you want a hot shower, you go in before it comes and let him use up all the hot water until the hot water takes him out. Then you're not involved. You're just loving him, just the way that he is. Yes.
Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, the safety thing that you brought up, I was right along those lines. I had the most unusual experience today. I was earlier in downtown Asheville. This man fell, and it fell on his face, and he was gushing blood. I found out later he was on a blood thinner, so it was like squirting out of his head. And that part about control took over in mine, because he just like got right up and the blood was, and I'm like, please sir, please sit down, you know, I'm sure you're dizzy and all this. And he just got up and he was just kept on walking, and I'm like, I wanted to tackle the man and make him sit down. Seriously, this stranger, I'm like touching him and, sir, please sit down for me, sit down. But it turned out I let me give him a ride somewhere, but it was the control piece of me that came out in that moment was
And that piece was, please sit down for me, not please sit down for you.
right, because he knew that he was fine. It looked a lot worse than it was, but to me, with the blood squirting out, like a trail of blood on the sidewalk, I'm like, this is not okay.
But it was okay. But it was okay.
It was okay. It was absolutely okay.
Yeah. Our need to control is always a dance against ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. So perhaps at that moment, if you had taken a breath and said, it's okay. If he goes down the road and he passes out, somebody else will call 911. It's okay. Which one was first? Breezy, you haven't talked yet.
I was just wondering in regards to the kids thing, is it best basically just on them, except for the safety thing, just to lead by example? And
It depends.
that's
It
what I
depends.
didn't know.
There are so many times that I walk by the front door and see children up in that tree and I just go, it's okay. It's okay. If it isn't, we'll work it out. It's okay. I don't need to go running and screaming out there. We have rules. You are not allowed in that tree. You get down, all you adults. What's the matter with you sitting there watching them? Just, it's okay. It's okay. Because the truth is that it is okay. And that if I freak out, the possibility of someone getting hurt skyrockets. Because I am really powerful. It's okay. Kristen.
I was just gonna say, as a lot of y'all remember, Reagan likes to wear nail polish and makeup, and the first time I let him wear nail polish to school, I let him know that his friends might make fun of him because it's not something that boys typically do. And when he got home that first day, I asked him if what people said, and he said they were all jealous. Their parents don't let them wear it.
David and then Elizabeth.
As parents often have to adjust how they use safety too. As a young person, me and my brother used to climb trees, very tall trees, 80, 90 feet in the air. And, at first it freaked out my mom, but then after a few weeks of us spending hours in the top of that tree, it occurred to her that we may be perfectly safe there, and she got over it.
Right. Good. Elizabeth.
Just, my parents taught us like the tree thing is like, if you think you can hold on, climb the tree. If you don't think you can hold on, don't climb the tree,
See, but that phrase had no I of your parent in there. I'm afraid. It was all you. If you think you can do it, then go ahead and do it.
It's very empowering. I mean, basically, the way I think it was, you trust me to use my judgment. But they taught us. I mean, it wasn't like, yeah, good luck. I mean, I do look back and think, oh my God, what were they thinking? And I climbed the pitch tree one day and I stuck, but they hurt me finally.
when you're coming from your own ego space, I don't want you to, I feel bad, I think, I want, then you're in trouble. And if it's you, you know, I see that you're doing this again, you wanna talk before, you know, you're homeless? I see that this is happening, is there something you wanna talk about? I'm here for you. That's it. Instead of, I have an opinion about you. Your opinions need to be about you. And let them be. Let them be okay. Even if they fall out of the tree and break their neck, it's gonna be okay. And sometimes you have to go that far to assuage that fear. Well, I've got the big fear. Barbara's right about everything except what if they die? They're gonna die sooner or later. You know, might be nice to be a kid and go flying out of this world, falling from a tree. Yeah, you know, who knows? So whenever it's about us, then our ego is involved, and if it doesn't happen the way we thought it should happen, just practice letting go. Just practice letting go. This letting go thing is the shift. It's the same way as the old lady and the young lady. That's the shift. And I bet there are things in your life that would really be helped out if you could just let it go. However, they said they were going to do something and they didn't, let it go. That's their issues of impeccability, not yours. Let it go. Wilma.
I was just gonna share a tree story. I used to climb a 90-foot tree to get away from my mother when she was angry. And she'd stand down at the bottom, you gotta come down sometime.
Susan and then Kathy.
Another children clothing thing. I used to argue with my daughter when she was very little. She had a very strong opinion of fashion in those days. And I clearly know that I grit my teeth wondering what people would think, how I could let her go out like that.
Right, it's all about you.
But when I gave into it and let her practice her creativity, people would see her and they would say, oh, look at you, I bet you dressed yourself today. And so proud.
Kathy.
I just wanted to thank you for the therapy. It's like amazing. It's like years of therapy coming here.
It is. It is. Because there are some things that just don't work. And on the spiritual path, we have to be willing to step beyond those. To keep doing the same thing and to expect a different result is insanity. So what do we have to do? We have to stop giving into our fears. We have to stop controlling and manipulating people. We have to stop finishing the phrase I am with anything that is less than amazing, fantastic, powerful, creative, beautiful, wonderful. We have to stop that. We have to stop dissing other people around us. We have to stop dissing ourselves, putting ourselves down. We've got to, I love that old thing in the weddings. I don't use it, but you know, I take you for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, till in death do we part. I think the only person we should ever say that to is us. That I take me for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, until death I do part, so that I will take me. And as we take ourselves, what we find is that we like ourselves way more than the person that we tried to turn ourselves into, based on unrealized, idealized images and expectations and stress and all of that, survival needs, you know, fight or flight stuff. And as we start to make those actual shifts and learn how to pull our ego back, what is ours and what is not ours, what's important and what's not important, to stop trying to have an opinion on everybody but ourselves, to stop trying to take action on everybody else in the world except us, then things really do start to shift. It's a shift of consciousness. And those other things, they just don't work anymore, and I think it is incumbent upon us on the spiritual path that we outgrow those lower levels of being, those lower levels of defense mechanisms and psychodrama and reenacting our childhood out over and over and over again with anyone who will play, that kind of thing. And when we do that, we start to realize that we do have access to this power and to this energy and to this level of livingness that is filled with joy. And it shows up with money, it shows up with health, it shows up with opportunities and things falling into place instead of things falling out of place. I don't know of any way around it. And these kinds of classes are much faster than therapy, because God knows I've done that for decades. Darcy.
Could you talk a little bit about people that are around you that don't seem to want to allow you to make these changes in your life?
That's just you. It's just there are no people around you.
But I mean, I
And
have.
all the talk of boundaries aside, they don't exist. They are only projected aspects of yourself. How can someone not want you to heal, or to grow, or to be happy?
All right, well, let me put it this way then. I have a coworker that seems to want to remind me of old things that I have done. And they're sometimes 3-4 years old, and I don't have any recollection of them. I don't even want to defend myself against it because I don't have any current recollection of what even happened. So I'd be talking about something contrary.
So don't defend yourself. How sweet is that? That you don't even have to defend yourself.
Well, that's the path I chose to take, was not to try and defend myself. But I did tell this person, I said, what you're saying is very hurtful to me.
But why is it hurtful to you? That's a boundary. Yeah, they don't know anything about you. That story has nothing to do with you. You hurt me. No, they didn't. They can't hurt you.
It just felt like it was belittling to me.
They may have tried to belittle you, but the only way you can feel belittled is if you take it.
Yeah.
If you remember.
That's it. That's the boundary.
Yeah.
Someone can yell and scream at you and it means nothing. It has nothing to do with you. You have me confused with someone else. Someone that you think you know. It's not me. So, I'm gonna go. That's all, but they can't hurt you. Nobody can hurt you. You can't hurt anybody else. Were there hands up over here that I missed? Okay, Elizabeth.
I was just gonna say, I mean, I know when that happens to me and I feel belittled, that's when I look at me and try to think, it's like, God, I mean, one of my things was not speaking up, you know, it wasn't being belittled.
Well,
but so I just look at it and go, okay, how is there something in me that feels belittled so I can heal that, you know?
Right, right, and that was my immediate reaction, but when I went back and rethought it through, I thought, no, this isn't right, this isn't who I am anymore, I'm not that person.
So maybe a wonderful phrase is, wow, look at how I've grown. Isn't that great? Yes. Look at how I've grown. Boy, that was a long time ago, so long I don't even remember. Look at how I've grown. And then you're not hooked because you're not hookable.
That's a good one.
You're not hurt, you're not belittled. When people come to me, and I'm in an interesting position because when you are active in this center, when you're a member, when you support it financially, when you volunteer a lot, there's a high level of ownership. And it's not completely uncommon, I hope I'm not opening up the floodgates here, but it's not completely uncommon that someone would come to me with an opinion about something. Either something that happened, something that didn't happen, something that they would like to see happen. And so for me, I have to listen with 2 ears. Am I creating something that's unhealed in myself that I'm bringing criticism in? Or can I set my ego aside and see if there's something for me to learn and grow here? Because if I'm not being criticized, even if it's coming through an avenue of criticism, if there's something for me to hear in that, then it serves me to set my ego aside long enough to be able to listen without a lot of defensiveness. Because when you went back and thought about it again, that was a key. You can have a conversation, be done with the conversation, and you're done, clean and clear. But if you go back and think about it again, they own you. And you're a puppet on a string being bounced around and reacting. And when you pull yourself out of that, you free up all of that energy to move into creation instead of reaction.
Well, I think it was just so out of the blue, it really caught me by surprise.
Good.
And
It won't next time.
I didn't really know how to react, quite honestly, when this person started.
Well, don't react. That's what the breath is all about. Because as soon as you get afraid, fight or flight kicks in. And it's a very complex thing that takes you over. It'll throw you out of the way of a moving truck. You know, you can lift up trains. It's an amazing thing that takes over. So how do you stop that? You just take a breath. You just take a breath. Were you going to comment? Good. Well, I'm going with David. Okay, so, Michael.
I've been having this a lot lately. I keep running into the same person in a different body, these customers.
Very honest.
It really is. And I noticed, I mean, I can name 5 of them right off the top of my head, and they're all my mother. So I almost left this job today because this lady was just like that. And so, but I didn't, and I realized this is me. This same person keeps coming to me. It ain't their fault, man. It's me. And so I gotta be nice to this lady. I just felt the need to. There's something not healed between me and my mom. Maybe I can help do it over here because it's easier with this lady than it
So you'll be better off to start working it out right now. Good for you, good for you. This is all a dance. And what you want to do, you want to talk about, you know, we started this conversation last week about building character, about who am I, how do I see myself, how do I bring myself into my life, how can I bring the best of me instead of the worst of me. And the worst of me is the part that keeps hurting me over and over and over again. To where you want to run away from a job because it's your mother again. That's not the best of you. So what you want to do is bring out that best of you, the part that's willing to look, that's willing to let go, that's willing to heal, that's willing to be honest, that's willing to live your life in integrity and impeccability, and to have things be about you instead of about everybody else because everybody else is a smokescreen.
It felt freeing to take responsibility for that.
Of course it did. That was a good thing. Big step. Yay, Michael. Good. Yes. So, I think we're done. I love you very much. This has been a lot of fun. Take out what you're going to get. There we go. Deep breath. Because what I know is that we are amazing. That there is a power and a presence that chose to incarnate as us. That we are points of prosperity and health and joy and clarity and wisdom. That individualization of spirit as us really does know what to do and how to do it. And that there is a guidance within us that is always here. And so I know that as we step forth this night in our giving, we set universal law in motion. The only thing that it can do is take what we give, multiply it, and give it back. So right here and right now, I claim for each and every one here abundant prosperity, money showing up in a variety of wonderful, exciting, and happy ways. More than enough to do whatever it is we choose to do. I claim for each of us here the wisdom, the clarity, and the intelligence to know ourselves and to live our lives as the best of us. I claim for us that life of spirit that is made manifest in every moment. It's a good life. And I know that as we give our gift tonight, that we are goes to help make this center all that it is ever meant to be. It is a place of peace, a beacon of light, a tower of strength, and a fountain of wisdom that touches the lives of all who call it home. And so it is.
So it is.
What is that?
Breathe it in. There's gold dust in the air. There is money that is looking for you. Breathe it in, put it on that tractor beam, pull it in. There are solutions to every problem, answers to every question. And I know that right here and right now, we are blessed. We are blessed with that awareness of who we are, that memory of who we are, and the courage and the strength to live as that amazing being that we have always been. We are fantastic. We are amazing. And in that, we claim the prosperity for ourselves, for this center, and for the world. I know that we are blessed, and so it is.
So it is.